Hi, I'm Brittney King.
And I'm Lisset King, and welcome to Honest Feedback. We are a podcast here for you. We're here to answer any of your burning questions, anything that has been heavy on your heart, and you're just seeking a different perspective. We are here to be your loving friends to give you that. And we have my lovely wife, Goddess Brittney King, who is a pleasure priestess. She helps women connect to their sexuality, sensuality, and their pleasure.
Yes, I do. It's very juicy over here.
It is. It's very juicy.
And my amazing wife, Lisset King, is an emotional ninja, aka a trainer and master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming and mental emotional release and hypnotherapy. There's so many things. They're all magical and life-changing, and they can help you release baggage so you can start living and loving your life of purpose. This is a perfect time for you to press that subscribe button, to leave a review, to share with a friend. When you do these things, it supports us and reaching out to more people in the community. So do it. We appreciate you. Baby, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're talking about how to connect with your teenager, how to speak their love language, how to, bridge that gap between parent and child. Something that we're totally familiar with.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That secret 20-year-old, 15-year-old.
That secret kid we hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we don't have any kids.
We don't. We don't. We are not a parent yet. So we
only to the fur babies.
Only to the fur babies.
Yeah.
But what was your relationship like with your mother or your father during your teens?
Oh, okay. Well, my father, I was high-key terrified of because he was abusive.
Yeah.
So it was strained, and I preferred to spend as little time with him as possible. And with my mom, she was there, and I felt like she loves me, but like it was a very like mental construct of like love, and I never quite felt like I could be myself around her. So I felt like I was a very different person at school than I was at home. And I just remember I went to one of my friends' houses, and their family were cuddlers, and like, so they were like, oh, let's all get on the futon and watch this movie together, and like, let's cuddle. Like, they were just like a cuddling family. And I was just like, what's this? I'm so, my whole body and nervous system were like, this is amazing. Like, I was just a cat purring in the corner, and I was just like, this is amazing. But like, I didn't know how to like ask for that. That was not the way that my mom expressed things. It was quite the like disconnect.
Yeah.
How about for you? What was it like with your family?
Well, my mom was definitely affectionate. My mom and dad, like, they expressed love. There was no lack of love. I felt it from them. And also there was a lot of like misfiring. I didn't feel seen or heard as a teenager. There was just a lot of moments where I either felt lonely or I didn't know who to turn to when I had like a question. I just remember this moment. The sex talk with my dad was, we were watching a movie and there was a woman and man laying in bed together, and you could tell they just, had sex. And he goes, you see that? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, don't do that. And I was like, oh, okay. Yes, sir.
I shall never these knees shall part.
And I mean, it just wasn't the most educational conversation for me.
No.
I mean, yeah. So it's, it was a bit hit or miss with them. And I feel I can relate with just feeling like two different people. Like, I feel like they knew me as someone and I was well behaved, and then not always on the other side. When you don't tell someone how they should be sexually, they're going to figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So because of these reasons, because we don't actually have personal experience being parents, we phoned a friend.
Yeah.
We have a magnificent woman in our community, Briana Lynn Cerezo, and we have seen how she parents. She has incredible children. And when this question came in, we're like, we know who to call.
Briana.
So let's say a little bit about Briana. She is a breathwork guide and somatic coach. She helps people break free from the burdens of the past and find freedom.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's powerful work.
Yeah. We have both sat with her, and it's incredible. It was one of those medicines when you feel it, you're like, everybody's got to do this.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
Breathing.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited for you all to connect with her. Shall we get her on the phone?
Yeah, let's give her a ring.
Okay. Hi, Briana. Oh, we are so excited that we get to share this space with you and have you on the podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing so great. It's exciting to be here. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I've listened to many episodes, and so it's fun to be here.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I just told people a bit about what you do, but in your own words, can you explain how it is that you're serving and being a light in this world?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is my honor and privilege to be a breathwork facilitator and a somatic coach. And so I help people regulate their nervous systems and try and like move forward to the next place they want to be in their life, whether it's trauma recovery or up leveling. And I navigate that space with people.
Wow, that is profound. Well, in full transparency, Lisset and I have sat with Briana numerous times. She is prolific at space holding and facilitating these breathwork sessions where literally trauma just leaves your body.
Yeah.
And it's really been life-changing. And I love what you do because regulating your nervous system is so, so, so important. And I don't personally have children, but being around them seems like there can be quite a lot of dysregulation.
That is true. Yeah, nervous system regulation, I feel like it's our literal central channel, so it changes your experience of everything in life. And kids are a lot. Kids are a lot at every age, even in adulthood, teenager, infancy, the whole gamut.
Yeah. And do you want to share with us a little bit about like your family structure? How many children you
Yeah,
have?
absolutely. My partner and I have two amazing kids who are currently 17 and almost 14, and they are amazing human beings. And it's just been a privilege and a whole like life journey to bring them and steward them into almost adulthood. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I could speak to this. Like Brianna's family is just a dream. I'm like, when I early on when I met her, I was like, if we ever have a parenting question, like we're gonna need you to come on because the way you parent and just how well adjusted and talk about like having an empowered nervous system, your kids just seem to be so grounded in who they are. You really are a model for parenting to us. So thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot. It's probably my life's greatest work. There are the things that we do in the paid world, but really when at the end of the day, this is my magnum opus of life.
Yes, raising the future generation. So we have a write-in question today about parenting. So are you guys ready to answer some question?
Let's hear it.
Okay. I have a 14-year-old daughter and want to know how to speak her love language. To be honest, she's amazing, and our relationship is actually pretty good. But I've noticed myself feeling insecure around being affectionate with her. I've done so much work around healing my own inner child and repairing my relationship with my own mother. But my mom checked out when her daughters became teens, and she didn't know how to relate to us, nor was she the affectionate type. Over here, trying to break generational patterns by trying to continually show up and change the game. This is where I find that I get stuck because I don't have many friends with kids, and the few that do don't get my parenting with unconditional love style, and therefore feel like they can't offer guidance. So it's been hard for me to navigate these waters and not feel alone or feel like I'm projecting my wounds onto her because being affectionate is foreign to me. Signed, The Witness.
Wow. First of all, I just really want to acknowledge the incredible way that this person is approaching parenthood, where they're really thinking about their daughter's experience. And first of all, that is not always something that happens in parent-child dynamics. Like they're really thinking about it, and they speak to that they've done a lot of inner child healing, and that feels evident. Like the idea of being able to like, am I projecting this? Is this hers? Is it mine? Where am I coming from? Is such like a pro move to be able to even ask the question of like, where am I coming from with this? That is such an incredible awareness. So thank you, caller, for doing that work. It is evident even in the question.
Mm.
And I also want to express some empathy for parenting alone, and you know, like parenting in a situation where you don't feel like you really have a lot of community support or places that you can lean on. That has been my experience in many parts of my parenting journey. I didn't have any friends that had kids when I became a mom, and that can just be a really tricky space to navigate. So I also applaud you for reaching out when you know you need resources that are beyond your regular circles. So all pro moves. Good job.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
It's good to know when you need to ask for help. That's like
Yes.
step one.
Yes.
We're not meant to do this all alone in a nuclear family. Like, we need community. Um, as far as this particular situation, I love this. I see myself in this situation, both as my experience as a teenager and now as a mom. I have a 13-year-old daughter who's just about to turn 14, so I'm in the same zone. And I also have a teenage son who's 17. So I've been a little bit in this teenage zone before. The really amazing thing, like what this comes down to me, is about consent. And this is such an incredible opportunity to practice consent and model consent to your daughter at this very, very ripe age where she's coming into more intimacy in her relationships, maybe coming into sexuality, maybe coming into like that part of identity. And this is such an opportunity to model what that looks like. So I guess my advice and feedback in this situation would be to ask your daughter questions in the moment, like, do you want to share a hug in a moment of connection? Or making invitations of, you know, do you want to cuddle with me? Because not every kid wants to. I remember being 14 and my mom didn't ask me those questions. And we did have kind of some funkiness going on in home life and relationship at that time. And I have a visceral memory of my mom just coming in and bear hugging me and me being like totally stiff and not knowing, just that confusion. Not that she necessarily did anything overtly wrong. She loves me and she wants to be there. But like for me, it was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know who I am right now. So just asking, because I think kids at this age are in a place of moving back and forth, sort of pendulating, if you will, between independence and wanting to come back to mom and dad, and then exerting independence and coming back. So on any given day, it might be a different situation. Like, consent is specific to the moment, as we know. So asking and making invitations, I think, is such a good approach. One of the things that I really like to do is, if I'm watching a TV show with my kids, it's like, do you want a back scratch right now? Or like, do you want to trade foot massages, or do you want to trade hand massages? Like little things like that, where maybe they're open to it, or maybe they're like, yeah, not right now. And just the invitation. And if they say yes, if someone says like, yeah, I'd love a back scratch right now, which is nice because they just get to be in the receiving, which is kind of like a free pass sometimes if they don't want to do that exchange. Like, well, I can do that right now. But then going further into those questions of like, how do you like your back to be scratched? Does this feel good to you? Do you like this like super light touch? Do you like it better when I like scratch harder? Which is, again, like this incredible modeling of getting someone to like, giving someone the opportunity to check in with like, yeah, what do I want? Yeah, what do I like? Yeah, what does feel good to me? And I think that that is in some ways simple and in some ways totally revolutionary, because if every teenage girl had the opportunity to check in with their bodies and figure out what they like as far as physical intimacy and affection, that will translate to every intimate relationship that they have in the future. So this is like such gold in this space to give them the opportunity to think about that.
I want to pause you just for a moment, just to like sink it, because you're just like a fire hose of wealth of like information of like, this is so potent. I love what you're sharing about consent, because that just turned on a light for me about my experience as a teenager and a woman in this world, and feeling so many spaces where I didn't have consent on who got to touch me, who was hugging me, what kind of touches felt good, what kind of affection did I actually need. So really opening this door where it's an open line of communication, and every day you're taking in each moment to check in with like, what do you like, what might feel good, what are you open for? And I truly concur with you. Like, that would be revolutionary for young girls to start knowing as early as possible, like, my body belongs to me, what feels good to me. Like,
On honoring that no.
yeah.
Like if my no was okay as a teenager,
Yeah,
how
thanks for
different
bringing
things would
that in.
be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for bringing in that sacred honoring of the no. And I think that's the important other piece of that, is like that's the invitation, the no strings attached invitation. And you can just kind of gauge that in your own relationship with your child, because everybody's like, one of my kids is more affectionate than the other, and then sometimes it switches. So but just those invitations and letting them be like, yeah, I don't want that. And even if your feelings are hurt in that moment, because sometimes it brings up our own stuff, that doesn't need to be a part of their experience. Like, I think that's part of adulting and part of parenting, is sometimes just swallowing it and just being like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted. Like, I want to connect right now and they don't, but just, they don't need to carry your piece of it. And I do think that that is a part of appropriate parenting, that they don't need to take on your experience in every moment. Yeah. So letting them have their no strings attached while they're figuring themselves out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Briana, I would love to ask you, what has it been like navigating this space as you're raising two teens? Have you been practicing the consent? Have you had moments where you felt hurt feelings because maybe a child rejected a bid for affection or attention? How have you been navigating with that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have felt that a little like, ugh, like, because both of my kids go through phases where they're more independent or less affectionate than other times. And I think it's just a learned skill to learn that, like, the reward of letting them be during those moments of independence and non-affection is that they trust you when they're ready to come back. And that, like, I didn't push anything during those times. And so during those times, I just need to quietly let my little pouty self be expressed to my partner or to my friend, like, this is how it is right now. Like, my daughter doesn't really want to have anything to do with me right now. Like, she went through a phase where I was getting like finger waves. We went through a finger wave. Say like, good night, bye. And I was like, okay, cool. This is where we're at right now. She does not want hugs. She does not want any of that. And it's my job as a parent to not super take it personally, see the bigger goal of, like, developmentally, she's going through something else that's not about me. It's not about me in this moment. I'm here for safety. I'm here for basic needs. I'm here for support when she wants it, because that's how it will be in adulthood. You know, like, we're moving into that space. And so seeing the long-term game is helpful. And then it's so nice because eventually, if I steward that space well, eventually she comes back and she's like, yay, I'm ready to, she doesn't say that, but she's like, then it's like, we're like this in other periods of time where, again, I come back to those invitations. I'm like, sometimes my family, I'm learning that there's an art of leaving space for doing nothing. Nobody's on devices. Nobody has like a set thing going on. And my partner and I will just like hang out in bed with the door open and the cat's there or whatever. And just like, nobody's involved in anything. Next thing you know, one child comes in and sits on the bed. Next thing you know, and everybody comes in and suddenly we're having like the best, sweetest time together. And sometimes that does end up in a big family cuddle pile. And then, it's so lovely, and we'll have like the deepest, cutest conversations in those spaces because we've left space for nothing going on. So that's also like just making yourself available for times. I think it can be really hard to break the pattern of like being on a screen or like, oh, nothing's happening at home, I'm gonna scroll my phone for a moment, but like making a conscious choice to like, oop, I'm available for eye contact, which is then an invitation to come forward. And I love those moments so much. Usually when like, then it's like, and scene, everyone goes back to whatever they're doing. And my husband and I will look at each other and we were like, that was it. That was it. That was the moment. And it's so good. So much good happens in that space. And then I feel like they feel so connected to us then that creates the foundation for affection, either in that moment or other times because we feel more connected to one another. Yeah.
Wow, that is powerful. I love that. Such a tender moment. This sparked another question for me, also kind of based on our witness's question of she's been navigating showing up with her daughter differently than the way her mother showed up with her. Was this something that came up for you? Like, did your mom model this kind of consent level with affection to you, and that's where you're teaching from? Is this something that you've learned? And yeah, how is your relationship with your mom? And do you feel like you parent the same way your mom did or a new way? And how do you navigate all of that?
My relationship with my mother has always been complicated. We have a really good relationship now with lots of boundaries in place, but the relationship that we do have is very quality, and she's somebody I confide in and I'm close with in a lot of ways. During my teenage years, it was a very weird time. There were a lot of weird things that my mom was going through that I won't get into, but no, I do not parent the same way. My mom was both checked out, and there was a lot of sort of unconscious neglect happening, I would say. And there was also a lot of non-consensual stuff going on. So it was kind of this both, it just wasn't working for me. So I think those experiences inform who I am more. Like, I don't do it that way. There was a lot of love in my family and a lot of lack of skills and lack of consciousness. So the place that I'm coming from is like the minute that I found out that I was pregnant, I was like, this is important to me. Like, I can't live with myself, like, screwing this up. Like, I can't live with myself. So like, I take this seriously. I want to do it well. And so I think I educate myself. I've read a lot of books. My degree is in human development and family sciences. That's literally what my college degree is in. So I've studied these things. And yeah, just I do think it comes back to consent. If there's just one word that comes out of this whole conversation, it's just consent, because we're all different in every moment, in every day. Every relationship is different. So it just is a dialogue about like, what would feel good for you? Does this work for you? Are you enjoying this? Do you want, yes, let me pause there. Another thing that I would say is I think it can be cool to have a check-in with your child. Sometimes I take my kids on dates and we do something fun, but then I will also build time in there for us to have sort of like a business meeting, if you will, like a business meeting about the relationship. And I invite feedback. Like, is there anything that you want more of from me? Is there anything you would like less of from me? Is there something that you need support with that I'm missing? What are some of your goals, and how can I support you with those things? So asking questions almost like you're the boss or the manager and this person is your employee. Like, if that helps to put that framework on it, just inviting feedback. Since I am in the mentor role, since I am in the position of more power, I do hold resources. Like, I need to acknowledge that and recognize that it's not a forever relationship with that dynamic. It is ultimately my goal to raise humans that are personally responsible in the world, because I don't want them to rely on me forever. So how do I navigate the space between now and the future? So just asking for that feedback of like, what else can I do for you? Or what are things that I'm doing that you really don't like? And I have to have enough confidence and groundedness in myself to be able to hear that. And I think it just breeds respect in the long run. Even if that's hard to hear, like them knowing that they can give me sort of constructive feedback, and knowing that the channels are open for that helps a lot too. Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, whoa, that is revolutionary. That is something I did not have access to as a child. And I felt like anytime I gave feedback, the response I got was a wounded person coming back at me, telling me why I was wrong for having these feelings or these feedbacks. So I love that you open that space for in your parent-child at this point relationship, because it also just opens that dynamic going forward of like, I'm a person that you can talk to and reflect with and set boundaries with, you know, around whatever it is that they need in their life, and you can do the same as well. Like, it really is creating an amazing, nourishing, like, it just feels like a garden of rich soil. Like, wow.
I think it really speaks to this this caller writer question is just like, how do I navigate the space when I'm loving my child unconditionally and not everyone agrees with that? Like, I can imagine, I come from you know, parents are like, it's this way, this is how it is, and if I ever said anything like that I didn't like, explosion, you know. So it's really challenging when you're trying to raise a kid differently. How do you do, because it sounds very different, like the way you've done it from what you've been educated through, but have you found, how do you know to even do that? is my question.
I actually want to circle back. This is modeled by my mother now. So I want to say something really positive about her. Like, frankly, she was a mess back then and she made a lot of mistakes. And the beautiful part is that in adulthood, in our adult to adult relationship now, she has modeled so much humility about those mistakes and has held space for me as a wounded child to be able to come back to her and be like, this was not okay. This was really unfair. And she has held that. And because we all make mistakes, I'm sure, even though, like, thank you for all of the praise about the way I parent, I fully anticipate that when my kids are in their 20s or 30s, they're going to come back and like have a laundry list of things that they didn't like. I anticipate that. I'm not perfect either, and I've been through my own messy periods of life. So as adults, like, I love that my mom has held space to be like, you're right, that was totally unfair. I was going through ... and I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what else I can do, but I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And we have such a good dialogue in that way. We've been able to heal a lot of my inner child wounds and a lot of her inner child wounds that she was coming to the situation with by dialoguing together about those things. So even though this time that I'm speaking of was messy, the outcome of that has been like so much learned growth in my life experience with her. And I really attribute that to my mom for owning up and growing up alongside me. Growing up alongside me, and what a mark of strength it is to be humble and to admit our mistakes.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
1000%. So you mentioned when you were first, you know, having a kid and things like that, not a lot of your friends were having this same experience. Is there ways that you were able to like find and build community that felt good and nourishing to you? And is it, not being a parent, is it one of those things where it's like, hey, who's doing similar parenting styles? Like, this is okay. Or is it just kind of like, you have a kid, I have a kid. That's pretty much the connection.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, like, it has always been, I don't think I've ever found those friends that are in the exact phase of life as I am, where like I super connect with them and our kids are friends or any of that. Like, I do have friends that have kids. I have made friends with my kids' friends' parents. Sometimes it happens that way. The kids become friends, and then you're like, oh, we should probably hang out because our kids are spending a lot of time together. What's up? Like, what's your household like that my child is spending a bunch of time at? but I don't know that I have like a secret sauce around this one. It's just I show up in a lot of different places, and the places that I show up with my kids are not necessarily the same places where I show up and have the closest friendships in my life. Those places have always been a little bit separate spaces for me. And it's okay. Like I feel fulfilled in that, but there were definitely times when my kids were younger and my life is more saturated by parenting than it is now that they're teenagers, where that was really difficult. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a kind of like a funny question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, if there's one thing, I have not been a parent, you know, which is why we bring you on to help us with this. And I gotta say, like, the thing that scares me the most is the teens. Like, I'm just like, is that what boarding school is for? Like, why? How do you navigate something that you know is so inevitable? Like the teens, like, or how did you prepare for that segment? Because I feel like that is the common theme I've heard from everyone, even like my mentors and people that I admire. They're like, they could be the most grounded person. They're like, but a teenager will like bring out every demon out of them. So just out of curiosity, how did you?
Yeah. Well, this is, I feel like every day of parenting is preparation for teenage years. My tough love, hard fact answer is that I think that the difficulty that comes out of teenage years is usually an indicator of things that you might have missed during the younger years. And it's never too late to deal with it, but I think if there are too many power dynamics happening in the relationship, if you are like hovering over your child too much, they're going to push back against that. Because usually teenagers are trying to exert their independence. That's usually most of what's going on where the difficulty happens. And how far they go into independence might have to do with either the ways that you're constricting their freedoms and have been for a long time, or there might be some unprocessed trauma and ways that they're needing to find their identity and sense of belonging with peers, and they're doing things in order to belong in those spaces. And again, back to my zone of genius, it also can have to do with nervous system regulation. If teens are starting to behave in certain ways to use coping mechanisms, to use certain places and spaces or substances and environments to help them soothe themselves. That is something that is real too. So yeah, for me, I think I've always had an overarching mission statement that it's my job to raise humans that I want to be around. And with that comes a lot of teaching mutual respect, modeling mutual respect, rather than a lot of discernment between knowing when to let things go and let your child make some mistakes within the realm of okayness, and when to bring in that authority for safety reasons and be like, you know what? I actually had this conversation with my daughter this morning. I was like, you know what? I think you realize that I honor your autonomy and your power of choice in a lot of situations. And I also think as a good parent, there are times when I have to override that and be like, this is just a thing you have to do. Sorry. And we had that conversation this morning and she heard me. You know, I signed her up for some activities this summer that she was not really a super fan of. And I told her why they were important, why I see them as important as a transitionary phase in her life that will set her up for the next thing. And she was like, okay. And she let that one go because I picked my battles. So
yeah. Wow. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
The freedom of choice.
As a teenager.
I know. I know.
I think that's why I went ham at college, was because it was like, this is, and I had a weird mix with my parents where when they were there, it was like, do things this way. And then they were absent a lot. Like there was like, my dad was going through his own depression. My mom was off at work at the racetrack. And so there was this balance of like, I would go ham when they weren't around. And then I'd be like such a good girl when they were. And when I went to college, I was just like drinking everything, doing everything, like,
right.
put on the freshman 20 real quick because I didn't like quite know how to eat on my own without my parents. So I just love the way you parent. I've met your kids. They are pleasant to be around. I'm like, oh, are the kids coming? Like it feels good. And that's what a beautiful mission statement to like raise people you want to be around. Like I'm like, oh, I could do that. I could raise some cool kids.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. I love the way that you're talking about that, Lisset, where you're talking about like you're one person when your parents are around and then you're another person when your parents aren't around. And so there's like not integration or in personal integrity in that way.
Yeah.
That integration of like I am the same person in both scenarios. And so what that indicates to me when I see that is like when parents don't make it okay for you to show up as you are, they don't give you that lead to make mistakes or to try things on, then we start hiding parts of ourselves in order to be able to experience those things. And I think this is a place where a lot of parents really do struggle, because if we were never given permission to explore sexuality, if we were never given permission to explore substances in a safe way, some of these things are really taboo. I mean, like even me voicing, I'm like, I don't know how people will receive that, but I have very open dialogue with my kids around sexuality at an age appropriate level. We talk about everything. I talk about everything with my teenage son that he's willing to share with me, but he's not hiding things from me. We went through a phase where he was hiding things, and then I was like, whoa, not like this. Like I don't want to shame you. It's okay for you to have these feelings. It's okay for you to want to do these things, but not like this. If I don't know what's going on, then I can't guide you. I can't help keep you safe. I can't help you navigate situations when they get tricky. So please let me know what's going on, at least to a certain level, so that I can continue to be your mentor. I'm not judging you. I'm just here to guide you. Yeah.
That is so next level. Oh my God. Like it just hits so deep, because I, as a teen, I felt like I was living two different lives, much like my father. No. But I felt like it didn't feel safe in my home to be who I really was. And so I just hid lots of different parts of myself, and then was like the straight A student who does all these things and everything's right. But also my friend's mom is a doctor who's on call. So at her house, we're just drinking martinis and and like hiding so much of myself. And I remember when I started to go to college, my mom was like, I'd really like for you to share more of yourself with me. And I was just like, interesting. Like this had never occurred to me, because somewhere along the line, I didn't feel like that was okay. And so I did it. And it wasn't honestly really until close to the end of her life that I really started showing up with like the truth of who I am. I'm like, I pole dance, want to see? Like, I'm doing this, want to see? Like, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. The way that I handle this kind of thing as far as substances go, I have always had the invitation open for my kids to like, do you want to try a sip of wine? Do you want to taste what whiskey tastes like? And when they were little, like littler, I'm not talking at like age 3, but also they were curious. They're like, no kid is gonna want that. It tastes terrible, right? They're like, no. Why do you drink that is the question. Why?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Then as they've gotten older, I still, my son is like very straight edge. He like is not interested in any of it. And my husband and I drink on occasion, and I still will pose the question. I'm like, if you ever change your mind, if you ever decide you want to know what it feels like to have a glass of wine in your body, I would way rather have you figure that out with me than at a party with a bunch of kids where nobody knows their body, nobody knows their upper limit, nobody knows what's going to happen in that space, where you're all in this experimental space together and things get out of hand. I would way rather have you like know what that feels like with me in the safety of our home. And I think when I do that, not only is it a real invitation where I would rather have him do that, it also takes all the air out of the balloon of rebellion. Right?
Mm,
So it's
yeah.
not something that he is attracted to be like, hey, I'm gonna go over here and do this thing, and like, haha, my mom doesn't even know about it. I've already like taken the air out of that, where it's just like, yep, adults drink. Again, it's my job to raise responsible adults. And this is something that adults do when they choose to. So how do we party responsibly? How do we drink responsibly? And so that's part of what I'm trying to model with that. Like, we're not getting like super drunk at my house and like dancing on the tables. We have a good time, but
Yeah.
he gets to see that. My kids totally party with us in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime I've been to your house and we've had like a barbecue or a birthday thing, it's like the kids are there. Adults are being adult. We're laughing. We're playing games. We're just being, and they're there being a part of the experience and seeing like, this is responsible drinking. Like, this is what it's like.
Yeah. And I also just want to honor and say something about your community. Like, you have such a beautiful community of, like, we came to Portland kind of solo. We brought a friend, met some people. However, Briana has this magnificent community of responsible, loving, caring adults around her children. And it feels like everyone is like family. Like, all of your friends are family, and it's just been such an honor to be welcomed into that space.
Thank you. It's such an honor to have you be a part of that space. You are definitely included in that. And yes, I feel equal parts blessed and lucky to be surrounded by those people. And it is also the culmination of a lot of conscious cultivation of who I want to surround myself and my kids with. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like Witness shared, they've been doing a lot of their own work. And I feel like this is a wonderful space to have that invitation of, maybe you don't have other friends who have kids, or the kids, parents of the friends. I don't know. You're not finding exactly the community, but there are places where you're learning and growing and expanding and working on yourself. And it's like, what kind of community do you want to have around your child? They don't have to be child age to have a relationship of love and respect and trust of like, hey, this is another safe adult that's in our circle that we are allowed to have space with
That
and
can
like
positively influence.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then the cool thing is, even though I may not have that, like, it's been cool to see my teenagers bring their teenage friends over and hang out also in community with our adult friends, and also get to experience that too. And I really like having my kids' friends over. They're also cool people, and it's just fun to get to share their life, like be in my kids' world too, and see who they're surrounding themselves with. It's just fun.
Oh, it's so fun. Well, I feel like Witness, there is a lot in here. Did any of you guys have lasting thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like we answered so much more than her question, which is fantastic. We hope that we've helped you witness in like in several facets of the journey of raising a teenager. And we always welcome more questions for this. And yeah, Briana, any closing thoughts for our writer caller?
I just, again, like, I love when parents know they need to reach outside of their community of resources and ask for help. I love, love, love getting to answer these questions. I love talking about parenting in this way. So thank you so much for having me be a part of this conversation today. Yeah.
Fantastic. And where can people find you if they're interested in working with you and doing breath work and learning more about that?
My website is brianalynn.net. I talk all about breath work there. I host group and one-on-one sessions, and am about to release a coaching package on that space. So we can talk about parenting, we can talk about nervous system regulation, we can talk about all the things. So
It's all related.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And you do remote sessions as well, right? People don't
I
have to be
do.
in Portland. Okay, great. So you guys, you don't even have to be in Portland, but if you are, you have to have the in-person experience. But she offers remote, and it's just as powerful.
It's
So,
incredible.
yeah.
Working with her has been just like a game changer in my life. So thank you for sharing your gifts.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Wow. That was potent and juicy and explosive. I mean, we went all over the gamut.
We answered so many more questions that were not asked.
I know. What was your biggest takeaway from our conversation?
Well, I think the thing that really struck me was you start raising your teenager at the beginning. And it's all about how much space you give them to be themselves and loving them through all of their phases so that when they get to their teens, they're not lashing out or abreacting to any of your requests. And we've seen that modeled through Briana's kids. Like, you know, by no means is anything perfect, but man, it's a beautiful model for parenting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How about you?
My biggest takeaway was that conversation about consent.
Yes.
I mean, really just asking your kid what they're open to. Like, would you like a hug? Would it be okay if we held hands right now? And being okay with their no. And really just seeing what that would be like. I mean, I would have been so like, oh, she wants to hug me. You know, it just feels like so juicy. And also those moments she talked about of just having the silence and doing nothing. So then the kids are like, oh, there's nothing going on. Like, maybe we'll just come hang out with them. And then like those spontaneous moments of connection that they get to have simply by not being immersed in doing something else. I was just like, that's brilliant.
That's good for us. That's a great practice for us to do right now, even in our relationship.
100%. I'm here for taking on all the tips.
Yeah.
Witness, thank you so much for your beautiful and amazing and thoughtful question. We are sending you so much love. And above all else, remember, you are doing an amazing job.
Yes.
Your question was well thought out. You shared your experience. It's clear that you are doing the work. Yes. And I have no doubt that you are an excellent mother. So we hope these resources help you as you continue to share and give your love.
Yes. And if any of you out there have a question for us, you can give us a call at 971-895-4111 and just hit us with your name, your pronouns, and any question that you have. And we'll be happy to answer it on the air.
Absolutely. And until we meet again, be honest with each other.
Yeah.